Wait, what about this part? Shh.
Welcome to TBR, a podcast where two besties read. I'm Addi.
And I'm Alex, and join us as we reread,
Review,
and reevaluate our favorite books over the years.
Shh, I'm reading.
This week on TBR, we're covering The Whispering Skull by Jonathan Stroud. Part 3, The Missing Mirror, chapters 9 through 14. Hi, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of TBR. I'm Alex, and as always, I'm joined by my awesome co-host, Addi. Addi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing great. What are you drinking this episode?
I have a water. Hydrate or dihydrate, folks.
Always making me feel bad. I have a soda.
Is it a Diet Coke?
No, it's a Mountain Dew.
Oh my
so
God.
It's even worse. It's even worse for you.
Your teeth are going to be yellow.
It's fine. Just a bunch of chemicals.
It's fine. You'll be okay.
It's fine.
You come back in the afterlife, the Diet Coke is going to come for you.
Yeah, my ghost will just be a little radioactive with all those chemicals. But that's a problem for later. This week, we are covering part 3 of The Whispering Skull. It's called The Missing Mirror, and it covers chapters 9 through 14. Our question today is, Addi, do you think that items can be haunted?
Yeah, I think so. What about you? What do you think? Do you think so?
I think so.
Have you ever experienced an item that was haunted or something that you thought was haunted?
Not where I was like, oh my God, there's a ghost in this. But like, I avoid dolls because I'm terrified of them. I don't like that their little eyes stare at me. So I could definitely see those being haunted. I won't ever touch a Ouija board, but I've never come across something that is haunted, I suppose.
So there is this museum up in the West Fjords of Iceland. So it's up in like the northwest portion of the island. And it's called the Museum of Icelandic Sorcery and Witchcraft. And everyone just look it up. Just look up what it has there. Alex, because you're here, I'll show you. It is cryptic. They have human pants you can wear. And when I say human pants, I don't mean like an actual pair of pants.
Please no skin.
I mean like the skin.
No.
The skin with the hair.
No. That's gross.
Isn't that disgusting? And they also have, I have no idea what these things are, but they're disgusting. So yeah, listeners, if you just want to feel a little freaked out, just look at some pictures of there, because we drove all the way up there. I was with some friends, and it's not a short drive. It was like, 6-7 hours to get all the way up there. And you have to go in and out of the fjords, and I was determined we're going to go to the Witchcraft Museum. We're going to go. And we get there, and I just looked online at what was actually there, and I just got such bad vibes. And I didn't even go in the door. And my two friends and we sat in the car, and one of my friends said, well, I mean, I don't mind getting possessed today if you want to go inside. We did not end up going in. We looked at it from a distance, we said hi to the friendly cat that was outdoors, and we said goodbye.
That's probably the smart move. Those images looked cursed. My God.
Yeah, so it looked so cryptic and haunted. So I feel like some of that stuff has got to have some sort of psychic charge to it that I wouldn't put it out of existence that stuff can be haunted or not be haunted.
I wish I hadn't seen those pants.
Well, now you get to live in the world that I live in, where that is a sad reality.
Oh God.
All right, so let's jump in. Last episode, we did the second part of The Whispering Skull, chapters 5 through 8. In this, Lockwood and Lucy met their client, and they were given a case at the Kensal Green Cemetery, where it ended up okay in the end, but it wasn't the smoothest case they had. They showed up, and we were introduced to the Night Watch. We were introduced to Sweet Dreams excavations. They're digging up potential sources to get rid of them with Deepak. And also the team, they were trying to cover the body of this Edmund Bickerstaff, whose body was apparently really disgusting. And it was fine until later George pulled open the silver net to look at this mirror that Bickerstaff had, and Lucy had to end up chucking her sword. Lucy, Lockwood, and George all get into an argument when they get back to Portland Row, and then Lucy has a conversation with Skull. So that's where we left off. And the last part, the cliffhanger, was that the mirror that was there, or the bone glass as we'll figure out, has been stolen. Dun,
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 dun.
dun. That was a good recap. Chapter 9, we pick up exactly where we left off with that phone call from Deepak. They call a couple times. The gist of it is Inspector Barnes of Deepak is calling them there to get details of the case. So our team is sleep deprived and heading over to DPRAC. And I just need to know, how many hours of sleep do they get a night? Because they are adolescent little brains, need 8 hours, and I just know that they're not getting that.
No, they don't get that sleep. Although when I think about it, and I've always thought about this the older I get, but looking back on the days when I was in like elementary school, middle school, high school, I think about all the activities I was involved in and how I was like literally up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I would go until like 10, 11 o'clock at night and then wake up and do the same thing for 5 days a week. The weekend would just be slumming about. I was thriving on like no sleep, and it wasn't like I had breaks during the day. I was go, 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 go. So I can imagine these kids just are fine with no sleep, but also they need 8 hours of sleep.
Let me tell you, like, if I was getting the amount of sleep that they seem to be getting, no, my brain would not be functioning. I need a solid 8 to 10 hours every night, or I am horrible to deal with.
Yes. Also, I want to mention, I like how Lucy was talking about their ordinary response to phone calls.
I thought it was interesting that Lockwood was the one who just ignores them, and George is the one that politely says, like, oh, can you call us back later? I thought it would be flipped for sure, but definitely not surprised by Lucy's response, where she just yells at them.
I am not surprised that George politely asked them to ring back, because remember in the first book, they said that they were laughing that the client thought George was their secretary when they called. So would make sense that George would politely tell him. But yeah, I did like Lucy's response. I would have Lucy's response.
Yeah, me too. We do get this little throwaway line that I like, where basically Lucy is thinking about what the skull has said earlier and says, the power of the ghost's words have shriveled with the sunlight, and I knew I was wrong to let them affect me. The thing was a liar. It sought to snare me. Just as George said, as a listener, I had to beware. I thought that was interesting that kind of in the light of day, she's had this secondary thought about it, and whether or not the skull is able to influence her subconsciously, it's kind of like its power is lessened in the light. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah. I like how Lucy in this book seems a little more conscious of the ghost affecting her than she did in the first book. Because I feel like the first book, she was just along for the ride. And now that she's dealing with more severe ghosts, she's not doing another character's method and going along with the ride with it. She is consciously being like, I don't want to trust it. Next on this, when they're driving in the taxi, I do like that there is the awkwardness that you have with people after you have a fight with them. You know, where you're all like quiet and you're all just like sitting in that tension of like, who's gonna
break the silence? Yeah, are we fine? Yeah. Do we need to talk about it? Yeah. It's just the awkwardness, and they're so sleep deprived anyway. It's just them sitting in silence.
Yeah, so they get to Scotland Yard, and Barnes fills them in on what happened at Kensal Green when they left. And guess who's there when they get to Scotland Yard?
Their favorite people in the world. Kat and Kips are there, just kind of waiting. So basically they're like, first of all, they don't want to see them because they're tired and they've already had a bad day. But also they're confused why they're even there in the first place, being like, you know, we can talk to you once they're gone. And then, of course, Barnes kind of drops the hammer and is like, well, you need to answer our questions. You know, not many people even knew about the bone glass, and it's already been stolen 4 short hours after everyone had left. Not even a full day. And the gist of it is they're so short-staffed that he wants to employ both Kip's team and Lockwood and co-team to find out who stole the bone glass, why they stole it, and get it returned to them. So they have to work together.
It's kind of like the parent being like, you need to work together and you're gonna like it, damn it. Yeah.
Yeah, when they tell you and your siblings have to work together and stop fighting.
Barnes is so judgy and rude to Lockwood and Co. when they show up.
I thought, okay, there's been a couple throwaway lines where Barnes is definitely like, oh, Lucy's his favorite. Like, she mentions that he talked about how he likes the tulips she planted. He even, like, talks when they're talking through what happened the night before. He talks about how impressive Lucy's talent is. And, like, I was like, whoa, okay. He's, like, throwing compliments aside. His mustache is blowing in the breeze. We get, like, our first couple comments about that.
Okay, hold on. I had something about Barnes's mustache, because I think it's funny that it is continuously brought up, his mustache and how it's shaped.
It's iconic.
You know what other famous literary character, their mustache is continuously brought up every single book all the time?
No, who?
Hercule Poirot. Another famous
detective. Okay.
British author, Agatha Christie, and her famous detective, Hercule Poirot. Mainly because I just finished another Agatha Christie book because It's my life goal to read all of Agatha Christie's books. But I think it's interesting that Barnes has that typical inspector persona. The mustache. Well, it's kind of making fun of the typical detectives that you see, like the Sherlock Holmes, the Watson, the Hercule Poirot, like anything you typically see for an inspector or detective. They're making fun of Barnes. They're making him seem ridiculous.
Oh, for sure. I just love that, like, the mustache. We have George's glasses being, you know, a hint at his character. We have Lockwood's coat becoming its own character, and now we have Barnes's mustache. It's like, all right, we're rounding out all these little extra characters. I love it.
What would be your defining characteristic, do you think?
Oh, God. It would probably be my hair. It's just a mess all the time. If it's pulled back, you know that, like, I'm running around. If it's down and, like, curled and actually looks decent, we're having a good day. I feel like you can tell a lot. What about you?
Oh, I have many things, but this is one thing that continuously gets brought up even at work. I will always be wearing sunglasses. It could be the middle of the night and I'm wearing sunglasses. I wear them to work even though I have to wear them like business professional clothing to work. I am wearing sunglasses, not over my eyes, just to hold my hair back, because any person identifying as a woman listening to this podcast will know when you have long hair and you're trying to hold it back, the best thing you can have is sunglasses. It is the best headband.
It is the best headband. It pulls it back in such like a chic way that a regular headband cannot replicate. I have tried.
I know. Well, they have now these headbands that they're shaped like a sunglasses, but I'm like, why would I buy that? Why not just wear my cheap ass sunglasses that I hold on to so tightly? I will never get rid of them. I'll probably be buried in them. I'm so in love with my sunglasses that one time I was on a hike and one of the lenses popped off because a screw came out, and I just took some dental floss and put it through the hole. So all my pictures the rest of the trip were with dental floss on my sunglasses.
Did you just carry dental floss in your pocket?
Well, yeah, don't you?
No. I'm drinking a Mountain Dew. Does that tell you not enough about my teeth hygiene?
Yeah.
I'm trying my best, okay?
Maybe if you drank some water.
I drank water today.
Or tea.
I had at least a couple
That's not
sips.
enough, Alex.
Just chronically dehydrated. It's fine. Moving on.
I had a question because Barnes is mad that Lockwood & Co. didn't immediately report this case. I want to know, do all independent agencies have to report every single case to DPRAC? And if so, how quickly do they have to turn around that paperwork? Because Lockwood & Co. just finished this case, they said 4 hours before they got the call. Realistically, they would fill out their paperwork the next day and submit it. So why is Barnes getting mad at them when it literally just happened?
What makes me mad is that Lockwood tried. He told Saunders, like, hey, we should get DPRAC involved. And Saunders is like, it can wait till morning. Lockwood tried his best there, but at what point do you stop arguing with your client? They're the people hiring you. They have the ultimate say.
Saunders is such a Karen. Let's be real.
Oh, we learned that there's two sources. One, the body that was popping out and being the Gary Dementor-like thing. And then there's the psychic residue source of the bone glass itself. Working with two different things here. And the relic men only stole the mirror. They left Bickerstaff on the floor. And I thought it was so creepy. Like, they have the picture of it where it's like basically the crime scene footage. And Bickerstaff's arm is like still reaching out to where the bone glass was. It's like even in death he wants it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God.
Also, the poor kid that got conked on the head.
Yeah, they just totally brushed past that. They're like, he's fine. But yeah, he was beat up.
He's fine, but he's in the hospital.
Yeah.
Okay. You have not mentioned yet the best burn of this entire chapter. Nasty, George said. Don't look at that face, Cat. The blonde girl scowled across at us. I'm used to such things. And he said, yes, you work with Kips here, don't you? I suppose you are.
Let me just say, Kat is so cold in this entire interaction. Because Lucy mentions, like, oh my God, that poor kid. Kat's just sitting there stone-faced, like, being like, how dare you show emotion about this? And then she also accuses them of being the person who told everyone about the bone glass, and that's why it got stolen. She basically just accuses them.
And Barnes shuts it down immediately.
Yeah, thank God.
I honestly praise to Barnes that he is just like, I know you're not hiding it. I'm like, thank you, Barnes.
There was a throwaway line that I did love where Lucy says, if you do think that we stole it, feel free to search our laundry. George's dirty laundry baskets, that's where we hide all the good sources. I just think that that's so funny because Lucy literally had Annabelle Ward's locket, which was a source, and it was in her dirty laundry pile. Like, come on, Lucy.
I totally forgot that. When you brought that up, I was like, oh shit, yeah, that's so true. That's a good one. Okay, when Barnes shows them the photo of the crime scene, Lockwood is staring at it for a long time, and maybe it's just because I don't remember why. In the later chapters in this section, we get into it, but I forget why he can't stop staring at it.
I don't know either. I was so confused.
I was too, because I know it's got to be important because Lockwood, I feel like he just moves on for most things. Like, he sees the picture, moves on, does this, moves on. And that's just kind of his persona as the character, is that he doesn't really care about the specifics. He just wants to get the case done, move on. So I just thought it was kind of funny that he was staring at it for so long. But the pictures that they do see of the people that died from seeing insanely haunted objects, that's fucking creepy.
Yeah, first of all, why are we taking pictures of dead bodies? That's weird. I did think that this was interesting that, like, this case or this, like, specific relic having the power to kill all these people, you know, it's already shown to affect George in the way it has, and it's been stolen so quickly. Barnes has a deep personal interest because he was on that case 20 years ago that killed 13 people in that church, where people sought out these sources to try to commune with the dead and died because of it. So I just thought it was very interesting that, like, Barnes showed them all of this stuff and told them how dangerous it was, and even reinforced we cannot have these. First of all, it's illegal to have these sources floating around for the general public to interact with, and secondly, like, it's dangerous, so he's employing them, get it back. I just thought that was very interesting, a different side where, you know, usually Barnes is so gruff and to the point, and we kind of got a little bit of his personal interest in this case.
I am a little frustrated at Barnes, though, especially when you have read this book and you know how dangerous the relic men are, that he's employing children to take on these relic men.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me, Barnes? Like, you know how dangerous these people are. You work in Scotland Yard. Like...
Yeah, for real. Like, some of these relic men are very, like, they murder people. They just straight up murder people. Like...
I do enjoy that Barnes tells them to behave and not use sarcasm, insults, or swordplay. They end up doing all three.
Yeah, they really took that warning to heart.
Yeah, they did. I feel like they really wanted to take it seriously. They were following the rules through and through.
And then, basically, as soon as they're out of earshot of Barnes, Lockwood and Co. and Kip's team basically agrees, like, you stay out of our way, we'll stay out of yours. This is the perfect case for us to have our little contest to see who can recover.
Just conveniently.
Yeah.
We just talked about this.
It's only been like 3 chapters since they said it.
I do like, again, Lockwood asked George and Lucy if they're okay with the competition before he agrees.
Yes, I like that.
Different than the TV show.
We're having some character growth here. It's nice.
Yeah.
Chapter 10 starts with Lockwood and Co. returning to the scene of the crime where the bone glass was stolen. They had to stop home because they've been up all night. You know, they needed to get their kit and take showers and get ready, mentally prepare. Basically, we just get the very Sherlock, very Scooby-Doo moments of them analyzing the crime scene and looking at where potentially the relic men could have escaped to. Everyone, Saunders, Kip's team, people are interrogating the Night Watch kids because they just fully straight up believe that it's just the Night Watch kids that told the relic men about it. I think it's nice that we see Lockwood and Co. not automatically believing that. You know, they still question everything, but they have a different, refreshing perspective.
I wrote this later in the notes, especially when they're talking to the one sassy kid that they had talked to the night previously. But I do enjoy that Lockwood always believes kids before he believes adults.
Yes.
For example, in the first book, when there's the case of the kid that saw a ghost in the garage.
Mm-hmm, the granddaughter.
Yeah, the granddaughter that saw it, and the grandpa didn't want to believe. Lockwood was taking what the granddaughter had told her grandfather. He was taking it seriously, as that is true. He's like, I don't even care what the grandfather says. It's what the kid told the grandfather. That's true. And so heartwarming because he knows that, like, kids are the talented ones because he is a kid. I will say Lockwood is acting very Fred and Velma.
Yes.
Because we got to bring up Scooby-Doo at least once an episode.
Of course, of course.
Because why not? Especially when he gets up to the coffin to look into it and he's like, oh, well, then this happened, and then this guy went here, and then he got conked in the head here, and then this happened. It was like, you're acting like Sherlock and Fred and Velma right now. This is insane.
Let me just say, I do appreciate that the relic men aren't stupid. You know, like, they stood outside of the chains, they waited till it's almost dawn, so, like, the potential of being ghost touched was way less. They're not dumb, they're very smart. They snuck around the cemetery and found a different way in over through the canal. I'm glad that we don't have a dumb villain.
Yeah.
These people, it's their career to steal sources. That's how they make their living. So, like, obviously they know the dangers associated with it.
Well, and especially when we meet Flo Bones in chapters later in this section, you learn about the different types of relic men. There's the people that, like you said, they will be smart and wait out a cemetery and find a way in and steal it. But then there's different relic men or relic women like Flo, where they aren't stealing sources from other people. They're just looking for any sources that just happen to be laying around.
Yeah, you can almost be like a passive relic men and just find them, or you can be more aggressive and go and steal them. It's just very interesting. Lots of levels in there.
Also, another thing with the audiobook, because the audiobook is the British version, and the book that I have is sadly the American version, there is a sentence in this portion that says Deepak getting upset. In the audiobook, it says Deepak getting shirty.
Shirty? I don't like that. Is that another Britishism? Where it's like, is that common rhetoric over there?
I want to know. British listeners, can you inform me? Is this a thing? I'm very curious about this. I have never heard that phrase before. I'm honestly here for it if I can learn the backstory behind it. I'm kind of curious. I'm just like to point out all these differences.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by the differences and like the common terms used. Interesting.
They do end up talking to Saunders and Joplin about what had happened. And Joplin is honestly making a fair point that Saunders kind of did a crappy job at protecting the source.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Lockwood calls them idiots because they believe that the Night Watch kids are responsible. And then we see Lockwood and Co. intervening when Ned Shaw is picking on our favorite little Night Watch sassy boy.
The poor sassy kid.
So we see our little interaction where Lockwood calls him a coward, which, side note, calling someone a coward is the worst thing you can call them.
Oh, yeah.
Like, weak, whatever. Scared, whatever. Coward? Ooh.
I put this moment as yellow. This was a yes moment for me. I highlighted it.
Oh, mine was pink because I was like, hell yeah, we don't stand for bullies.
Yeah.
Lockwood is basically going in there, and then he shows him up when Ned retaliates and tries to attack him. And then Lucy steps in with her little rapier being like, try to get up. I dare you. And then George jumps in. He's like, oh, like, our rule is pretty flexible. Can I give him a kick? Like, he just wants to be included. Like, oh my God.
They're so great. I love them.
And then, of course, as soon as Ned walks away, they do try to get information from this sassy little Night Watch kid. And he's just being so sassy. And they're like, all right, fine. We're just going to dump you in the coffin. Like, they immediately start bullying him as well. It's so mean.
Yeah, I like how Lockwood's like, well, we're not fits. And then he does the same thing.
Yeah. He's like, looks both ways to make sure no one's watching. And it's like, yeah, we're just going to put you in the coffin for 10 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. So when Lockwood is threatening the kid, he says, like, oh, the kid's like, you wouldn't do this. He's like, well, yeah, did you hear about Bill Jones? He's like, no. And he's like, exactly.
I love it.
Do we think, did Bill Jones actually exist? Is this just someone, like, a random name from Lockwood's past that he's making up? Or, like, does he really not exist?
I bet he just totally pulled that out of nowhere.
It's so funny. It's so funny. Yeah, so Lockwood is able to bribe the sassy kid to basically show them where they probably came in, and we figure out that they climbed over the wall.
Yeah, they jumped over a wall from the canal, I believe, which also, traveling along water is also smart because we hear in a later chapter that visitors hate running fresh water, so that's another avenue that they could use to keep them safe. Again, these relic men aren't stupid.
Yeah, no, they're not stupid. They may have weird names, but they're not stupid. I think it's funny that Lucy and George think that the name Dwayne Nettles and Jack Carver aren't real. I've heard weirder names. This poor kid that is giving them funny names, all he needed was one coin. How much is he getting paid regularly? That one coin is like, oh my God, amazing.
I don't know, but it's a little bribery. Oh my God, he's a whole new person.
He is. But again, how much is he getting paid? Because he's clearly not getting paid enough.
I don't know. I guess if someone needed answers and I was being an asshole, I would probably ask for $5. That's probably my bare minimum. It was like, you can buy something out of a vending machine with $5.
Have you ever seen the movie Better Off Dead?
Okay,
it's a movie from the 80s, and it has John Cusack in it, and the movie itself is fine. It's funny at parts. It kind of takes it too far at parts, but the one funny part is there's this one newspaper boy, and I forget exactly what happens, but essentially he doesn't get paid his $2 for the newspaper that he delivered, and so the entire movie, it's just an ongoing bit where he keeps following John Cusack's character going, I want my $2! The whole film, he's like on a bike, he has like a crew, and I want my $2! And it's just, I don't know why, this kid has that energy.
I could see it, yeah.
And I thought the ending of this was really creepy, where he was like, oh, well, one of them is still here. And that dead body, the description of it is terrifying.
Yeah, okay, like, I thought that getting ghost touched was bad because you swell up and you turn blue. oh my god, this person died of fright. They're clawed, their eyes are wide open, their face is twisted. Woof. Yikes.
Also, I had a question though. Do you think that's how the kids that died in the Red Room, do you think that's how they were left as well? Because we don't really get a description of what they looked like.
Wasn't the guy clearly ghost touched?
Yeah.
I don't think it ever specifically said if the girl was ghost touched or not. It was just that she was so curled up on herself, like scared.
So is this just like extreme ghost lock, basically?
This sounds like it's a whole nother level than anything they've ever seen, which is terrifying because, you know, we've seen a lot.
In my mind, I don't think it happens often. Okay, chapter 11.
Chapter 11 has a lot of
Backstory.
Yeah, we hear a lot about the beginning of Tom Rotwell and Marissa Fitz and basically why these objects that might be psychically charged with violent deaths or trauma kind of have been banned because they're just so dangerous and people would throw them away. There's all these government mandates. Then we get a little backstory on the relic men themselves. We hear Lucy's perspective, which is shockingly black and white for her morals on this. Like, she does not believe that relic men are anything but the lowest of the low in society. She has her standards, like, basically they're using talent as well, but they're using it for personal gain and not for making the world a safer place. So we get a little bit more insight on relic men and the people who start being relic men. I don't think I could be a relic man. That just sounds so scary because you're operating outside of the law.
Yeah, I would be too anxious for it. I think this is one thing I really liked about the TV show is, one, their portrayal of Flowbones, but two, just how Flo describes the realm of the relic hunters. And the way Flo sees it is that everyone is making a living off the dead. She says you're a cog in the system, but it's true. Lockwood and Lucy are in this system, and they are not going to ever be able to escape from it because, like we had talked about, all they're doing is cleaning up these issues from the problem. They're not actually trying to solve the problem. They're not trying to find a solution. They're just picking up the remnants of the problem. I think it's really smart that Flo sees that and describes that a little bit more of how much better are agents than relic men.
Yeah. I mean, even in this later chapter, we get that whole portion about how she has some agency as a relic man, relic woman. Relic man is a very sexist term. Let's just put that out there. Relic person. Like, she can do what she wants, and she follows her own authority on that, and Lockwood agrees. What is the alternative? She has some talent. She would just be a night watch kid. You know, she has talent, but not enough. So she'd be taken advantage of in the system and paid pennies, you know, and put in dangerous situations. You know, at least now she can choose how much she wants to be involved and choose how much danger she's putting herself in. So she does give that alternative explanation that kind of makes it less of a black and white issue and more of a gray zone, which hopefully gives the readers a little more perspective.
Yeah. Also, I just want to note, this is another Lockwood and Lucy adventure. We haven't really had one of these since the start of book 1.
Yeah. We get some thrill of the chase here.
It does. Feels like a little side quest. You know, when you're playing a video game, like, oh, well, we need to help so-and-so, and they're going to give us this in exchange.
Yeah, once again, we get Lockwood. Why can't he just ever spell things out? He just has to be so secretive.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're going to meet an old friend of mine, a relic woman. Can't he just say, Flo and I go way back? She does relic work. Why does he have to parcel out this information throughout the entire chapter? He could just be so upfront and just say everything. That drives me nuts.
He could be really honest, and I don't get why. Also, another question I don't get why. Why does Flo like licorice? That's disgusting. That's just a personal opinion. I have tried.
Hey.
I even lived in a Nordic country for a while to learn if I would like licorice. I did not. I am so sorry to licorice lovers.
Some licorice is good. Black licorice? Keep that away from me. If your favorite candy is black licorice, we're gonna have issues. I'm serious.
Talk to the entire country of Iceland. They love black licorice.
Please get your taste buds tested because that's a taste issue.
But we meet Flowbones. I know we've been talking about her for like the past 10 minutes. Flo's interesting. I really like her. She's a interesting character for Lucy to meet and kind of challenges her perception of relic hunters. And Flo is so smart for looking for sources on the edge of the water.
Oh my god, yeah, because she's safe. Things wash up there. She just has to patrol. That's like her territory that she staked claim. Flo also has a full page description, which I think is wild.
Oh, yeah.
It's an entire page.
They try to, I don't know, it makes her sound like she's disgusting. And it's like, okay, but she is living on the streets. Like, realistically, where can she take a shower every once in a while and sleep?
We get this exact same, like, privileged joke almost. Like, we get the jokes about George being fat, then it just gets tired after a while. And it's like, really? That's what we're joking about now? And then we get the same exact trend with Flo, where it's like, oh, she smells. Oh, she's dirty. It's like, yeah, she's mucking about by the river. I'm sorry. How do you expect to be clean from that? She doesn't.
What do you expect?
She doesn't have a house that she goes back to every day. I did like that there was one throwaway line. I'm not sure if we talked about this or if I just thought about it and never brought it up. I had asked before, why does the general public not carry around rapiers? Even if they can't see the ghost, they could at least feel it, and stab things in the air. There's a throwaway line that carrying a sword is illegal for non-agents to wear, which is why it's so important that everyone, has their little silver pins and their brooches and, all the fashion items that keep them safe. So I just thought that was an interesting little throwaway line. Also, we kind of see that Flo not only is doing illegal things by being a relic person, but also she doesn't really give a shit. She's gonna keep herself safe. So she has her own sword. Good for her. Also, she's a badass.
She is.
She sounds so angry. And Lockwood's like, oh, she's in a good mood when she's swearing at him. And Lucy basically later is like, well, what if she was in a bad mood? And he's like, well, I've only seen it a couple times, but she definitely threw an agent in the river once. Like, Flo just takes no shit.
Only slightly concerning. Yeah. I was going to say this with the little kid, the sassy kid as well, but I think it's interesting that you see two really good examples of young kids that act older than they are. And even though they might be scared or unsure of what they're doing, they're at least putting on a front that they pretend to know what they're doing. So the little kid is putting on a front of, I'm not scared, I know what I'm doing, but secretly he might be terrified. And he's putting on this sassy persona of he doesn't give two shits. And same with Flo, she gives off the same persona. In a way, back to what you said of oh, Kat is coming off so cold or Kips is coming off so rude. I think that's the point, is to kind of get you to see this other side, at least a hint of the other side, that these kids are actually kind of scared, but it's really sad that they have to act older than they are and that they're not scared.
Well, yeah, because they're put in these life and death situations. Mostly as kids sound like they don't have great family relationships. They might not even have someone to comfort them, so they have to have this kind of emotional wall built up and act as strong so that they can be strong. It's just really sad. These kids can't be kids.
They can't. I will say, just this entire chapter, the conversations with Flo, you can hear it. Mm-hmm. It's so good.
Yeah.
The dialogue is top tier in this chapter. It's hilarious.
Yeah, we get Lucy pulling a Lockwood in this chapter.
I was just about to say that. I said she's playing the same game Lockwood is that he did last chapter. She's using the Lockwood positive charm.
Yeah, and she's poking at Flo's insecurities, basically being like, oh, well, it's fine if you're scared. I totally understand. And Flo obviously has this ginormous chip on her shoulder, and she's like, I'm not scared. You think I'm scared? You want to see scared? And then comes up with this trade for a trade, favor for a favor, basically just to get back at Lucy, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. It makes sense that Flo would do a trade for a trade in the position that she has as a relic hunter. It makes sense. So yeah, they have this little side adventure where she's trying to dig up and find the source, and Lockwood and Lucy are trying to snuff out the ghost, and Lucy freaks out and starts to get goosebumps, which another one in the Audible version, it's goose pimples.
Oh, I like goose pimples.
I love it! I like goose pimples. I've actually heard that one before.
I have as well.
That's a good one. Also, what does miasma smell like?
Miasma, I think in general, is just a bad smell.
But what's the bad smell?
Yeah, miasma is just a highly unpleasant or unhealthy smell or vapor. So I don't think it has a specific smell. It's kind of, I guess, you know it when you smell it. Bad smell.
Well, I smell bad smells all the time.
Yeah, I drive to work past manure, it smells awful. So.
Have you ever gone into a room of middle schoolers? That's miasma.
Oh, God.
And the ghost is coming towards them. Bum, bum, bum.
Chapter 12 starts with Lockwood for once being the person to see the visitor first. I kind of thought that was refreshing. Usually we get Lucy being the most sensitive one. She can hear it before anyone sees it. We get the opposite this time. Lockwood can see that what looks to be a shade is hanging out. It's so interesting that they're by running water, they're by the River Thames, and there's just this ghost hanging out, which is previously, unheard of. I think that's really interesting. How strong is this visitor that it is showing next to running water? It's a red flag number one for me.
All right, so I have a question. Do you think more people move towards the river or ocean lining cities to avoid ghosts?
1,000%.
What do you think happened to people that were landlocked?
I think they immediately bought houseboats.
Okay, so this discussion has been brought up. I brought it up to multiple people, so if anyone that I've had this discussion with is listening to this podcast, hello, welcome. If you haven't, welcome to my insane brain. Alex, you had brought up this question like a month ago. You messaged me out of the blue and said, if I eat enough salt or iron, am I ghost proof?
Yeah, specifically, I was thinking about, you know what I love? A good taco. I love some good Mexican food. So if I'm going to eat a steak taco, some salty tortilla chips, and, just add along a little margarita with a salt rim, does that make me just a little less likely to be ghost touched compared to people that haven't eaten that? Because I'm just curious, like, they use salt and iron in their defenses. Does it matter if I consume that? Would that help me? Are anemic kids more at risk because they don't have the iron levels? There's a lot of questions that I have.
Oh my god. Okay, someone else brought this up, but don't you think agents are probably like iron deficient?
Yeah, does that make them more sensitive? I feel like it would.
Yeah, because then that's why they're all sensitive. Oh my god, that's why Lucy passes out.
Oh my god, she's not getting enough oxygen. She doesn't have that hemoglobin.
Wait, okay. Actually, I'm gonna stand with this theory. I've heard this before. I'm taking it as true. Okay, so these poor kids, they're all iron deficient. Okay, so if you have too much iron in your system, then you're ghost proof, right?
Yeah, if you're not dead.
I need measurements on how much salt is effective against ghost and iron so I can know how much I need to consume to be ghost proof / how soon am I going to die after I consume it.
There's a lot of curious things here we can talk about.
Okay, then I have another question. So if they're using a lot of salt against ghosts, does that mean they're taking out a lot of salt from food? I.e., then would it be a little bit healthier? And also, is that why all their food sucks? Oh my god.
Oh my god.
This is making so much sense.
It's a government conspiracy.
Also, if I drink enough water, will I be ghost proof? How much water do I need to have in my system? This is a society that will encourage the hydrate or dihydrate mentality.
Oh my god. Does that mean that me being chronically dehydrated would be more?
Alex, you're screwed. I really want to know. I want measurements. Okay, so I put this on my question list, and any listeners that know, I do have a question list for Jonathan Stroud whenever I finally get to ask him all my random questions about Lockwood & Co. Top of the list, Alex, how much salt and iron and water do I need to be ghost proof? Second on the list, how are the people in Alaska doing? If they have the problem there, how are they doing?
Well, for half the year, they're doing awful. For half the year, they're staying inside and not leaving. Because that is a dark winter the entire half of the year.
I know. They're probably literal ghost towns. But during the summer, they're probably the place to be.
Yeah, I bet people are like the snowbirds there, where they stay for when it's light out, and then they leave once it's winter.
True.
It's an intriguing thought.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we'll add that to the little list.
I had a note back to our story, actually. I think initially I thought in the book specifically, Flo comes off as really rude. But I feel like once you learn her backstory in the later books, it kind of makes sense because she's been through so much. She's kind of like that old person, the get off the lawn, where she has lived through a lot of bad things, and she is actually pretty talented, where all these kids that are like, oh yay, I'm an agent, I know what I'm doing, and she's like, you really don't know shit. You have not been to hell and back. And it's kind of sad because both Lucy and Flo are doing the same thing where they're judging each other and being rude to each other, even though they both have very similar stories.
It's a hard life. Not everyone can deal with the trauma in the same way. Lucy obviously has been through something traumatic and remained as an agent, but she had to go to a different agency. And if she had gone to one with a supervisor, maybe she would have had to quit. Whereas Flo had this dramatic event, we learn later, and moved to be a relic person. I just like that we're getting all of these different perspectives on how trauma can affect you and how everyone doesn't just bounce back. It's refreshing.
Yeah. Flo has a lavender stuffed bag. That is intriguing.
Okay, I have a question about this. So lavender is stronger than silver while the fragrance is still there. Do you think that in the grand scheme of the lavender farming that we've talked about before, that they're crossbreeding to get strains of lavender that have stronger fragrance that lasts longer if it's more potent? Like if it's more effective against visitors? I feel like they would be selectively breeding for that.
I mean, if they are, people that are allergic to lavender are screwed.
Yeah. They're dead. They just don't get to survive in this society.
Oh my gosh, imagine if you were an agent and you were allergic to lavender. You would have to stop being an agent.
Yeah, that'd be you'd just be hopped up on Benadryl all the time. You'd be seeing things that aren't visitors, just hallucinogens.
Poor Timmy just starts sneezing on the case.
Timmy's a problem.
Timmy's dead.
He's a liability. He's gonna be taken out.
Also, so they finish Flo's case, and then Lockwood is like, hey, return the favor. Favor for a favor. Help us with Jack Carver. She is not being helpful at all. She's like another version of Skull.
Oh my god.
In this moment.
She's getting such joy out of all of their questions. She just says no.
They're like, oh, do you know him? She's like, well, no. So when you say you know him, you mean you know of him. Well, sort of.
As two people in the same profession can. We did skip past something.
What?
We skipped past how the first place they wanted to go to was basically being busted up by Deepak and Fitz, where they employed dogs to seize and drag these relic people that were trying to run. It's like, holy shit.
Oh my god. I didn't know that.
Yeah, some men tried to flee. They were pursued by dogs, seized and dragged to the ground. That sounds illegal.
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, and that's Deepak who's doing that, which is scary.
It says they could make out Kipps and Ned Shaw and Kat Godwin with them.
Yeah, they're just like casually watching. And then poor Flo, it just says the relic girl had been unusually silent. Unusually silent is not a characteristic that Flo would employ.
Yeah, you think she would be mad at Deepak, but I think she has that moment where she's realizing that she's kind of in deep over her head in this lifestyle. She probably is scared in that she doesn't want to leave this lifestyle. So they sit down at a little cafe.
It doesn't even have a name. It's just a cafe.
A cafe close to Limehouse Station for all the off-shift night watch kids. Oh. Also, throwaway line, they say lost and found notices, and that just makes me think of all the kids that got ghost touched on a mission and never got found. Makes me really sad. But you know what's funny? The amount of sugar Flo puts in her coffee.
Flo would be me. That is what I would do. I love a good sweet drink.
Yeah. Oh my god. I like that they gave that to Lucy in the show. I don't know if that was on purpose, but Lucy in the show definitely puts like almost 6 spoonfuls of sugar in her coffee.
Yeah, same with the toast too, because Lockwood like cuts up the toast and gives
oh
it to
my
Lucy in the
god,
show,
that's
and...
like the best part. God bless Joy Wilkinson. God bless Complete Fiction for doing that. That is, oh my god. That's up there with the man rolling his sleeves. He butters my bread, cuts my toast.
Why does that sound like something out of Mean Girls?
I mean, I always made the joke because I always liked Peter Malark. I mean, I still do.
Boy with
He's
the
still
bread.
amazing. What a king. And I always was joking, oh, bread boy, butter my bread.
If I knew someone who worked at a bakery and could get me loaves of sourdough bread for free, that's what I want in a man. Free bread.
Dear listeners, if you know a man that works at a bakery and makes sourdough bread,
Please DM our Instagram at 2bestbg.
oh my gosh, if we get a guy DMing about this, I am going to die. We will have to bring him on for an episode. That will be so funny.
I would die. It'd be hilarious.
So yes, this is actually, we had talked about it previously, but this is where we learn about the different types of relic hunters.
Yes.
And we learn about Julius Winkman.
Yeah, our first little intro to someone who's going to be consistently awful in all the books. So from what Flo tells us, there's 2 types of relic collectors. Those like Flo, who are very quiet, looking for forgotten things of psychic significance. They don't give trouble. They don't look for it. And then there's the opposite, the ones that are too impatient. They want quick profit, and they're willing to kill for it and steal. It sounds like Carver is the second one. He's a little scary. She said he wears the threat of violence around him like a cloak, which I just thought, I highlighted that yellow. That's good imagery there.
Ooh, yeah. Also, can I note, the system by which they try to get a hold of Carver just seems too easy.
Carver responds and shows up to Portland Road literally like a night later. So the relic person system of getting information around is that good? Like, that's crazy. I could text someone and they could respond like a week later. And these people are just posting anonymous notes.
You leave me on red all the time.
It's because I work weird hours.
You leave me
Addi.
on red. Do you know how many times I go, do you like this theme song? We should talk about this. What about this picture? And I get left on red. But then I message you, hey, I tripped on my face, and you respond with a laugh.
I'm half delirious when I read them, and I'm like, I should respond when I'm fully awake, so it's not just mumbo jumbo. And then I forget. It's not just you, I promise. I am a chronic non-responder.
All I'm thinking of is the one time when we lived together and you were on the couch falling asleep and I had just finished a movie and I was like, Alex, okay, let's go to bed. And you're like, I like tacos.
You know what? Because when I'm half asleep, I cannot have incoherent conversations. This is why I don't respond by text when I'm half asleep. It won't be relevant.
Oh, goodness gracious. And then Lockwood makes Lucy pay at the end.
All right.
I'm sorry, Lockwood.
Lockwood gave that kid money. He paid for the licorice. We know he has his wallet. Why is he making Lucy pay? He made her pay in the last book, too. I don't understand.
I mean, my mentality is if I ever go on a date, we're both paying for each other. Like, it's gonna be 50-50. If we're doing, like, Lockwood paid the kid and he got the licorice, then, Lucy can pay for some coffee. But also, Lockwood, we know you are her employer. Like, you clearly have the money. Why don't you just pay? You brought this meeting upon yourself. Come on, Lucy is just along for the ride. All right, chapter 13. I like that this opens with a third-person perspective on their outfits as they're approaching Winkman's. I think it's interesting because it adds to that undercover vision, you know?
Yeah, I like that they're cosplaying as normal teenagers. It's like this could have been them in an alternate universe.
But it's so off from what they normally wear. It is only solidifying my theory that Lockwood would be a theater kid because where does he have these Bermuda shorts?
He just has a costume box, like with a flowy skirt and his Bermuda shorts.
They also talk about the thinking cloth messages and some scribblings on the thinking cloth before they left.
Yeah, I just love the spectrum of things that are on the thinking cloth. There's memos, shopping list messages, doodles, sketches of visitors, and then George specifically has like I'm out, doing research, I'll be back later. And then he's got his own like personal notes on how the skull was responding to temperature when he shoved it in the oven, which made Lockwood
it's so
mad.
Great.
And then like a personal buy more chips shopping list.
To once again show that they are children, we have to buy more chips. Do you think some of the thinking cloth messages get lost in translation?
Oh, 100%. I feel like that's anything. When you're not talking, you don't have that inflection of your voice. You can't tell exactly how someone means it. It takes all the emotion out. So unless you're doing like a paragraph description, I feel like a lot of stuff would get lost in translation.
Yeah. Okay, side note, I do like the thinking cloth in the TV show because there is one part of the thinking cloth that Lockwood is flirting with Lucy on it, and it's so cute.
Is it about the tap?
Yes! Props to Complete Fiction because the thinking cloth in the TV show is exactly how you want it. It's exactly how I pictured it.
I almost wish that we had read this book series when we still lived together because then we could have our own thinking cloth. It just makes me sad on what we missed out.
Alex, I wish that every day.
I mean, we had our sheet of shame where we would write down like the embarrassing things that we did, but
I forgot about
the same.
Okay, anyways, back to Winkman's. So they're walking inside and they're trying to get this source, and all I can think of is that one meme from Parks and Recreation of "Don't be suspicious, don't be suspicious."
Yes. That's going in their brain. We first meet Adelaide Winkman, which is Julius Winkman's wife. She gives off a very no-nonsense 50s housewife. She's dressed in the flowy dress. She's got the puffed up hair. She's cleaning what I would assume to be some sort of source or relic. And then she's also like scary. Like she will beat you up and then clean up the blood afterwards.
Yeah. Like a terrifying Stepford Wives housewife, basically.
Yeah.
I had a question. So they're undercover. Have you ever gone undercover before? Or like tried to be undercover for something?
No, here's the thing. I'm an awful liar under pressure. My face gets red. I can't come up with good lies. I'll come up with something outrageous. Like, give it away. Have you? Have you ever been undercover?
I mean, Alex, I think we need to say that we have been undercover before. When? Let me remind you. Listeners, Alex and I did the best Halloween costume when we were living together.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
One year we had the bright idea we were going to be those things in front of the car dealership.
Is this just an American thing? I hope that this is an everywhere thing. They're like little inflatable tube things with faces and they kind of like...
Yeah, the ones that go, woo! We dressed up as these for Halloween. The night that people always go to the bars in the university. And we dressed up in them and we went around campus and just stood there and looked like we were these car dealership floaty things and chased people.
Yeah, I just want to put this out there. Like a year after we did this, that became a very popular Halloween costume and you could buy an inflatable one. We made ours from scratch.
From the laundry hampers, fabric.
There was sewing involved and hot gluing.
Alex, this might be why we're still single.
Probably is a contributing factor. It's fine.
Anyways, I have a question though. Why isn't Lockwood putting on the show instead of Lucy?
Maybe because Lucy is clumsy and she would get caught immediately.
I don't think so though. I think Lucy isn't that clumsy.
See, I think Lockwood is a better liar, so he definitely should have been the one lying to the Winkmans. Instead, he goes in search of the back rooms, and Lucy just throws a bunch of change on the floor after Lockwood gives her the signal.
Well, and that's why I'm saying is Lucy can hear stuff. She's a listener. So, like, why wouldn't she go in the back and try to find it? Because she can hear it out. And Lockwood can just lie up front. I don't understand this plan. It is not well thought out. I don't get it.
Way different than the TV show.
Oh, yeah.
Way less scary. Not what you expect from a threat, I would say, because Mr. Winkman is described as soft. He has the soft voice. He's short. He has very soft hands.
He has apparently slicked black hair.
Okay, when I read the description, I was like, yeah, that's Danny DeVito and Matilda.
What? I did not read that. Oh my gosh. For some reason, the guy that plays Julius Winkman in the show, he does a fantastic job, but it was kind of a bit different when I read the book. I don't know why. I was picturing like a bigger, bulkier man.
Yeah, this guy seems very unassuming. Just like the shop itself, it doesn't have any bars or seeming ghost protection. But like, as we learn when Lockwood shocks his hand, there's a lot of little booby traps in there. The Winkmans aren't dumb. They're just scary and threatening, and obviously they can take care of themselves and take care of any threats, as they have. Winkman has said, the next time you come in here, I'm gonna murder you, and no one's gonna find your body.
Yeah, he's like softly creepy and scary. I think it's interesting that Winkman knows Lucy's an agent from the calluses on her hand.
Yeah, that's terrifying. Also, what if she just loved doing monkey bars? You get calluses from that.
Yeah. What if she plays some guitar? Yeah. Come on, Winkman. Get with the times.
He calls her a tramp, which I thought was mean.
Also, Winkman's kid is probably more terrifying.
Yeah, Leopold is a terror.
Yeah, very different than the show. Like, chill, bro.
And he's the one who noticed her hand in the first place. What a snitch.
Oh my gosh. The Winkmans, like all three of them, it's very dark for this novel. I say that, but then we had the description of Bickerstaff's body earlier in this one, and that definitely was pretty creepy. Like, I'm surprised that's like a middle school book from that description.
Yeah.
But the Winkmans are pretty dark.
They need therapy, for sure. They have something wrong.
Also, along with Winkman, something that I noticed, they kind of allude to it in the show, but Winkman has a soft spot. A little bit. Because he's not what you expect of, like, he's like, oh, if you come back, I'll kill you, but he doesn't kill them. You would think he would kill them on the spot, but he doesn't kill them, and he says, your kids, go home, and he kicks them out.
Yeah, he gives them one pass, and then he literally throws them out of the shop. He's like, no, you're not walking out of here. I'm gonna throw you out.
So it kind of was interesting that he has, like, a soft spot.
Yeah, I thought maybe it's because he has a kid and he's like, I don't want to murder children. Maybe he has a conscience for that.
Well, and also, if you think about it, like the relic hunters, I want to know the age range of relic hunters. Like, how old can relic hunters be? Are they as old as agents? Can they be older? Because I almost feel like Winkman likes that he's in this realm where he is the big boss and he doesn't want anyone to be bigger than him. So he kind of deals with the older generation in this society. And so I think when he sees kids like his kid, it might be because he has a kid. He's just like kind of a Barnes mentality of like, your children, you know nothing. You're stupid.
Who's to say that when agents age out of their talents, they won't become relic hunters? Like, I think they said that either Nettles or Carver was probably 20-something years old. And at that point, you start to lose your talent. These people are smart. So maybe he just does want to, like, eliminate a potential employee later.
Yep. Chapter 14.
Chapter 14, Lucy and Lockwood go home and kind of lick their wounds. They say, that could have gone better. Like, yeah, it definitely could have.
Yeah, it could have. Maybe Lockwood be lying and Lucy go in the back. Just saying.
Maybe they shouldn't have done it because it's dangerous.
Moving on.
They meet George when he comes home, and George, he just has his mind on one thing, and that is Skull. He is not focusing at all on this case.
No, and I'm kind of glad Lockwood is like, dude, priorities. Like, we're on a case. This is not important right now. Same thing as before when Lockwood is yelling at George. He takes it a little too far, and he's a little rude, but rightfully so. George, come on.
George needs to read the room because he has this whole feel about the skull, and Lucy kind of interrupts and is like, oh yeah, I wasn't talking about the skull. I was talking about Bickerstaff, to try to get him on track. And then George goes back and starts talking about the skull again. It's like he's one-track mind, can't mentally switch gears to start talking about the case. So Lockwood freaks out and is like, you need to pay attention. Things are happening right now. Lucy and I already risked our life today. If that's important to you at all, like, we need to focus, get with it, because there's a lot of things at stake right now. And then George pushes Lockwood's buttons again And he's just like, I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I was just mesmerized by your shorts. It's like, George, it is not the time to be pushing buttons and not focusing right now. Like, come on, man.
Well, and it's so different from the first book where Lucy comes back from the burning house and George is automatically like, where's Lockwood? What happened? He's going down the list of questions. For Lockwood and Lucy, it should be a sign that something's not right with George, but they don't do anything. They're just mad at him.
Yeah, in fact, Lucy kind of retreats upstairs and, like, needs to mentally collect herself because she's still freaked out about the whole Winkman encounter, rightfully so.
She does notice that Lockwood is being overly irritated. Maybe I don't remember why, but why do you think he's being overly irritated with this case? Is it because it's too close to home of a man that died that was looking into the problem?
I think subconsciously, like, that's a thing. I think he's mad that their agency is finally starting to get somewhere now and they're getting good press. People are starting to book them because they believe in their agency. They believe in, like, how quickly and how professionally they can get the job done. And then, like, on the first case, well, not exactly the first case, but on one big case following the Coombe Hall success, George kind of messes it up and, like, challenges that professionalism that they're offering to clients and puts himself at risk. And, like, they just had this big deal where they all almost died. They should be strong. They should be focusing on being safe. And instead, George ignores that in pursuit of more knowledge about the problem. So I think that Lockwood's just like, you're risking your life. You're risking clients' lives. You're risking all of our lives, like, for something that doesn't matter at the end of the day, because he doesn't care about why the problem exists in the first place at all. So I just think he's like, we need to refocus our priorities on things that matter, and that's solving cases, not diverting from that. And I think that also he doesn't want to lose to Kipps because they're rivals. So I think there's that there as well.
Yeah. Lucy does cross a line, I think, personally,
does.
by listening to the door, because she starts thinking about what Skull told her and that there's something behind the door. So she listens up to see if she can hear any psychic charge or anything, and she doesn't. Like, imagine if Lockwood was right there.
What if he noticed? That would be a huge argument. They just had this entire argument about it.
Yeah. But I will note, I thought it was very interesting that it's reminiscent of what happened when they were taking care of Bickerstaff's body. And Lucy kept hearing a voice saying, look, look, like something subconsciously egging her on. So she's constantly getting these signs, not just from Bickerstaff, but from Skull, to look further and keep going. Like, keep pushing her forward to asking questions.
Yeah, and Lockwood isn't helping because, like, he's keeping secrets still. Like, Lucy was very jealous and shaken up that he knew a relic person. He had this whole backstory with Flow Bones, and she knew about his backstory. So I think Lucy not only feels unconfident because she doesn't know Lockwood again, like, this has been a huge point of contention, but also she's having multiple people tell her to listen to her heart's desires, with Bickerstaff and the Skull being like, yeah, you're right, Lockwood's keeping secrets that could put you at risk. She just has all these avenues telling her to follow her gut and listen, but the only thing that's holding her back really is her trust in Lockwood, which every day is getting less and less and less as he keeps these secrets.
That's a really good point. I didn't think of that. You know what I did think about, and it checks out, is they go downstairs and Lockwood says he's apologized. And George says that Lockwood's been drawing the missing object from the Bickerstaff coffin, and Lucy says he can't really draw. And for me, that just checks out.
I think he draws this bundle of sticks, and she's like, is that supposed to be pencils? Like, what is that? So his doodles on the cloth must be awful.
Again, I forget why it's important, so maybe I'm gonna be really mad that I forgot this, but...
It's the stand, right? It's the stand for the bone glass, because it's meant to be displayed.
Oh, maybe that is it. You might be right.
I thought that was it.
Anyways, but we learn more about Bickerstaff in this moment because George finally relays all his research that he has been holding in, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he also scolds them for going to Winkman's alone.
Yeah.
And then he talks about how he still feels the tugging on his mind from the bone glass. And I think he's embarrassed afterwards because his cheeks are red that, like, he admitted that he still doesn't feel completely in control and how close he was to dying, basically, because we're assuming that the same thing killed that relic man. And then, yeah, he goes, like you said, into the research he had about Bickerstaff. Basically, we know Bickerstaff used to work at the sanatorium. He had that bad reputation, all of those scandals. He was frequenting graveyards and stealing bones. They didn't know why it was happening. George even mentioned that the newspapers were, like, purposely vague. It seemed like people higher up were keeping the stories from being posted.
It sounds very much like the Fairfax story.
Of course, the press is going to keep things about important people out of the paper.
Also, I think it's funny that the paper is very adamant about this eaten by rats theory and nothing about getting shot. Like, rats aren't going to eat your bones. Like, did they just assume that the bones in the corner were Bickerstaff's, or
I don't
what's
know.
happening? And also, if Mary Dulac and Wilberforce disappeared the same time that Bickerstaff was basically died, why did they not try to pin the blame on Mary Dulac and Wilberforce that they killed him or ate him or something? Like,
Well, especially when Mary Dulac came back 10 years later. They called her a mad woman. She was in the woods, basically a lunatic, and then was put in an asylum. And she later wrote a book called The Confessions of Mary Dulac. Did people not read that? Like, I'm assuming that she confessed to his murder in there. Am I just missing that?
I also am missing what Lockwood thinks the mad woman's confessions are, because he says it might just be about eating bugs and things in the woods. Okay. That probably wouldn't be my first thought of what a mad woman would write about, but okay, Lockwood. How do you know? I had something else. So they talked about what had happened to the house, Bickerstaff's house, after his death.
Yes.
And how the hospital that he worked at got burned down under mysterious circumstances. And then they built something on top of it. And they're mentioning how stupid that is, because you shouldn't build stuff on top of haunted areas. And I just want to say, yeah, why are we making Coombe Hall a school?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I'm just saying. Why have we done that? Also, I'm very curious. I'm just writing it down so I know in the future, because I 100% feel like that's a thing even in our world. I will not be building stuff on top of haunted things.
Okay,
Noted.
this could have been our question of the week. Would you be willing to live in a haunted house? Like, if you're looking at a house, it's perfect, right price and everything, and they're like, yeah, someone died in there.
Nope.
Would you still buy it?
Nope.
Yeah, I don't think I could either.
Absolutely not. I also have to bring up, there's the Icelandic elves, and they have a person in Iceland that's the elf negotiator.
Oh.
They talk with the elves. And actually, there are certain roads that they're like straight, and then all of a sudden they jut out and then they go straight again. And it's because they kept trying to build in that one place and everything kept going wrong. And they have brought out an elf negotiator, and the elf negotiator was like, nope, you can't build there. So they had to go around that area.
Okay, but I love that.
I know.
How does one become an elf negotiator? What degree do you need, and how do I apply?
Okay, don't build things on haunted areas. How do I become an elf negotiator?
Yeah. These are the pressing questions that we ask at TBR.
Anyways, there's a knock at the door.
I do love that there's this knock at the door, and they all just stare at each other. I'm gonna be honest, same. If someone knocks on my door and I'm not expecting anyone, there's no way in hell I'm gonna open that door.
No. I think they're all nervous in this moment, because it's totally when you're all looking at your friends of, well, yeah, maybe it's this. I don't know. We'll just hang out here for a little bit, and maybe it's this. Oh, we're fine.
And even Lockwood's like, oh, I'm sure it's Flo Bones. Yeah, it's definitely Flo Bones. And then no one moves towards the door until he's like, this is ridiculous. We have to answer the door. And then he answers the door, and guess who? It's our good friend, Jack Carver, with a knife in his back.
Yeah, this is a chaotic scene. Oh my gosh. I remember, I mean, when you've seen the TV show, I knew it was going to happen, but reading it was kind of like, whoa, wait, what is happening? Like, this is crazy, because he basically, like, falls in. Like,
Yeah.
he says that the door opens and it, like, pushes Lockwood to the side and he falls in. I did have a question, though. So do you think Carver was on the threshold and then got killed as he was standing there? Or do you think he was on his way to Lockwood & Co. and got stabbed, like, maybe, like, across the street or a block or two away, and then sauntered to Lockwood & Co.? And if so, why would he go to Lockwood & Co., like, after he got stabbed from a distance?
That is 100% my question. When did he get stabbed? And like, no offense, if I'm meeting up with a friend or someone who needs information and I got stabbed, there's no way in hell I'm gonna continue on. Like, I'm gonna go to the ER. How far away did he get stabbed? Is there a little blood trail from the cafe to wherever he got stabbed, and then boom, to Lockwood & Co.?
My only thought process is either he's getting to Lockwood & Co. because then he feels like they're responsible for him getting stabbed, so he's trying to get revenge, or maybe he is so close to Lockwood & Co. that he's like, oh, if I get there, they'll get me help.
I thought it was very interesting that he was stabbed in the back.
Yeah.
Physically, that's good. Metaphorically,
You're not wrong.
he was stabbed in the back by someone he might have trusted.
And we're left on the cliffhanger that he dies.
Interesting. Well, he hasn't died yet. He's just in a pool blood.
Oh, sorry.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. He might live. Wait till next episode to see if he
With
lives.
a knife in the back. We'll see. We'll see. That concludes part 3, The Missing Mirror.
Now we are on to the next portion of our show, the what if question of the week.
The what if question of the week is, what if Lockwood had to be the distraction instead of Lucy at Winkman's?
I think it would have gone a little bit smoother, personally. I think Lockwood would have been able to lie his way a little bit better than Lucy did. I think Lucy also would have found the mirror. I don't know if she would have been able to actually get it, but I think she would have at least laid the seeds of where it is at so that they could come back later and actually get away with it. But I think automatically going in there they're too fishy. They're too obvious. They're too suspicious. But I feel like Lockwood could have played it off a little bit better.
I agree. I think Lockwood inherently is a better liar. So I think he would have been able, as long as he kept his hand in his pocket. I think if Leopold had seen it in his hand, it would have been the exact same thing. He would have known he was an agent. But Lucy had said when she walked in, she had tried listening and she had heard something like a vibration, not quite the buzzing of the flies that she had heard earlier, but I think if she had gotten closer, she would have been able, like you said, to sense it out and known that the bone glass was there, and then they could have called DPRAC or something like that and moved it along.
I love the book. I do like how the show did it a little bit better for this scene, just because it felt more real of dealing with these dangerous people. I like the character arc that they gave Lockwood in that part of the season, that he is being too reckless, and it kind of shows in this scene, but not as intensely as we want it to. But that is so important when you get to book 3 and book 4, of seeing how reckless Lockwood is and how Lucy doesn't like that. She feels very scared about that, and even George feels that way as well. And he mentions that in the last book, he mentions it this book, he mentions it the next book. I think that provides an important character flaw for Lockwood that just isn't ultimately seen here as much. Now we are into our next part of the show, the favorite moment guessing game.
I'm gonna be honest, these chapters, they were good, but there was not a whole lot that stood out to me as yes, 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 yes.
Yeah, I have 2 moments that I like. They're not my favorite in the book or in the series, but I guess for this portion, I'd say I like them. I wonder if yours is Lockwood taking on Ned Shaw.
It is.
Oh my god! I will.
Yeah, the whole interaction where Lockwood defends the little kid, they stand up to the bully, and then Lucy also jumping in and George being hilarious, asking if he can jump in and kick him. Yeah, that was my moment.
That was your moment.
See, I don't think that's your moment, though. Is it?
I'm not telling you.
Oh, no, you're giving me a face. You're giving me a face.
No, I'm not. Listeners can't see a face. I'm not giving you a face. I didn't know such thing.
Is it when Lucy flips the script on Flo and becomes Lockwood and then is all sweet and says that she's scared?
No, you're right on the first guess. Go with your gut,
No,
Alex.
Liz, you have
Go
the
with your
exact
gut.
same.
We have the same
I
one.
should just automatically guess my favorite moment. Oh.
I know. Our track record so far is just we picked the same thing.
I know, I'm saying it. Dang it, I should have guessed that. I wasn't sure.
Trust your gut. Be like Lucy. Trust your gut.
I should have.
All right, so that's the end of our episode. Next time we will be doing part 4, Dead Men Talking, which is chapters 15 through 19.
Stay tuned to see if that guy dies.
Stay tuned to see if Alex will drink some more water, if she figures out how to be an elf negotiator.
Follow us on social media. We are at Instagram at 2bestiesread, on Twitter or X at 2bestiesread, and then
And wait for it.
at Gmail. At 2bestiesread@gmail.com.
That is just mind-blowing information. I wouldn't have guessed that.
I know, it's pretty shocking. Stay tuned and follow us as we generate memes and come up with more questions.
Follow along.
Engage on social media.
Do you also stay hydrated? Do you want to also be an elf negotiator? Are you also curious about how people are doing in Alaska? Do you also want to eat an incredible amount of salt, iron, and drink a ton of water to be ghost proof? Do you think it would make you ghost proof? These are questions we want your answers to. I'm curious.
Yeah. British people in particular, please let us know if you say shirty.
Shirtly?
Oh, shirtly. I'm sorry. Please let us know if you say shirtly.
British people, just tell us how we're wrong. We're honestly used to it at this point.
Yeah, for real. Oh, God.
Anyways, so that's the episode.
Thanks for being my bestie.
Thanks for being my bestie. But we're gonna see you next week. Hydrate, Alex. Get that Mountain Dew out of your mouth.
It's going nowhere.
No.
Alex. I'm just gonna pickle my liver. It's fine. Thanks for listening to TBR.
Be sure to follow us on the socials at Two Besties Read.
Got any suggestions for the other series we should look at? Email us at twobestiesread@gmail.com.
Join us next week as we read.
Shh, I'm reading.
Hey listeners, Addi here. Since it's the end of the year, we just want to thank all of our listeners thus far that have listened to our podcast. Whether from near or far, we really appreciate your support and any comments along the way. Just to give you a little snippet, this is how excited we were that someone commented on our Instagram posts. But once again, thank you, and thank you for being our bestie.
Okay, so picking up with chapter 9, basically, like you had just said, we just pick up where we left off with that phone call from Deepak saying that the bone glass is missing now.
Can we pause really quick?
Yeah, what's up?
We got a comment on our Instagram.
Ah!
Someone said the BBC was so epic. I'm so hyped for the next book.
Oh my god.
We have a fan!
This person comments all the time and I love it.
Yes! Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. We actually got 8 likes on our post today, just saying. So look at us go.
Okay.
We have people. Anyways, continue. Sorry.
That's exciting.
Start over.